Atari. Made especially for systems from Atari. The video game that lets you help E.T. get home. Just in time for Christmas. Happy holidays.
Ah, the infamous ET for Atari 2600. A game that sucked so hard in the public's eye that some believe to have a big hand in the video crash of 1983. Often considered to be one of the worst games ever created, next to Superman 64, and this game left a bad taste in a lot of gamers' eyes. The taste was so bad that it led to people starting rumors that Atari buried millions of unsold ET game cartridges in a landfill in New Mexico. Because they had so many unsold games, they didn't know what to do with them. And actually, in 2014, gamers, fans, and just reporters alike gathered up to be part of the famous game cartridge dig, and actually found not only ET games, but a bunch of other Atari games that obviously sucked back in the day. And this confirmed that ET was a legendary flop. However, what I'm about to say is probably very unpopular, but I'm going to say it anyway. I thought ET was amazing. So I've actually done a playthrough of ET, and I'm going to share that with you, showing you how the game plays, what made the game cool, and how ET, in my opinion, was actually ahead of its time. So the playthrough is relatively short, and we'll explain all elements of ET, and I'll tell you why I think ET kicks ass for the Atari 2600. So first off, when you first start the game, you're going to come down in your ship. And what you have to realize with ET, that counter at the bottom, you have 9,999 points. Every time you walk or run, because the control scheme is pretty simple. If you hold down the button while moving, ET will sprint and you'll lose life a lot faster. And if you're standing still while you press the button, ET will make this infamous noise, wrong. That's kind of was my invitation of it. But basically he'll stick his head up and gather information, or float, whatever he needs to do. And let me explain the premise of this game real quick. Your premise in ET, if you never played it before, is to traverse the land, find parts for your telephone. You actually got to find 3 parts. Eat Reese's Pieces along the way, and yes, those are official Reese's Pieces taken straight from the movie. Assemble your telephone, call your people, and enter your spaceship and head back to your home planet, all while avoiding a scientist and an FBI agent. Sounds simple enough. What makes ET cool is, if you understand the game, because I don't understand. I never had a problem understanding this game when it first came out, but maybe I was a savant at games, I don't know, but I thought the gameplay was pretty simple. So first off, what you want to do, when you start in this marsh area right here, this is going to be your end screen, ironically where you first start off. And if you look at the top of the screen, you'll see all types of icons. Now we'll explain the icons as they become relevant. But what you want to find in this screen is you want to find a little square with a circle, and that's where your ship's going to land. So you definitely want to find that first. Once you find that, you can start traversing the land. Now this little Roman numeral 3 sign, or basically it's like a building, but it looks like a Roman numeral 3. I always thought it was when I was a kid. Basically, when you see that, you can push the button, and every time you push the button, we'll just call it ET activating, okay? Because this basically is when his head stretches up. So it's ET activating something. So basically, when you activate this, it's like your only attack. You can send these people away. Just to put the enemies in perspective, this FBI agent right here, if he touches you, he'll take your candy, he'll take your phone pieces. So you want to avoid him at all costs. Also, this little dot right here in the middle of the screen, that's your candy. You can collect up to 9 pieces at one time. And the cool thing with ET is, once you connect 9 pieces, you can call Elliot, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And then he'll come and take the candy from you, go back home, then he'll come back and bring you a piece of the phone if you're missing it. And that's exactly what we're going to do in this gameplay. The little parts right here, the black parts on the screen, those are pits. So you want to avoid those unless something's inside. And I'll show you how to find that in a minute as well. So when this guy, and also another thing to note right here, when this guy's standing in one spot, due to Atari's limited constraints at the time, you could only have one character on the screen with you. So if another character is nearby, this guy's going to stay in place until either you leave the screen or the character gets out the way. Think of it like somebody's trying to come up in the screen, but they're canceling each other out. So that's why we get this animation. This guy just standing on spot looking like he's got to pee. But I'm going to use this to my advantage. Basically, what you want to do is walk around the screen and find any kind of elements that might help you. Now, when I find an icon, for example, that E we saw right there, that's to call Elliot. That question mark, when we find that and activate, we can see if there's a piece of phone inside the screen, like right here. So we drop down, pick up our piece of phone, and remember, we got to find 3 parts to the phone. Now, when you come out, you want to make sure you can go. And now, right now, we got the scientist chasing you. And when the scientist touches you, basically he'll take you. He doesn't really hurt you, but he takes you back to the lab. But he doesn't cut you open. So we're going to avoid these guys. And while we're going through, what we're trying to find, guys, is basically all the candy, all 3 pieces of the phone. And we want to find this one emblem that looks like a space. It looks like a bat, but it's actually our spaceship. And we'll find that later on. So right now this guy's got me and he's gonna take me back. He doesn't do any damage, but he just kind of wastes your time. And moving forward, we got these arrows. And if you hit the, if you activate with one of the arrows, it'll take you up, left, right, or down on the next screen. So we're gonna keep finding our candy. And we want to try to find question marks so we can see if there's any pieces of phone. And we got one right here. So there we go. Now we got our second part of the phone. Gonna lift our way out. And this guy's got to pee again. This little circle right here with the dot, basically if you're low on energy, you can activate right there and it'll sacrifice a piece of your candy but give you back a little bit more energy. And also when this guy's stuck like that, you can walk through him without any risk of him taking anything because he's in a retreating stance, so you don't got to worry about that. So we got 2 pieces of the phone already. We just got to find this last piece, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get 9 pieces of candy. I'm going to call Elliot. He's going to bring me the final piece of the phone. If I get touched by this guy right here, this guy following me, you will lose a piece of the phone, and he basically puts it back somewhere in the maze, and you got to find it again. So not a big deal, but you don't want to do it because your candy is limited. Once you eat up all the Reese's Pieces, they'll start appearing after a while. So you only get so many pieces of candy. So you got a couple of times to find those 9 pieces, and then pretty much you got to find everything else manually. So. So we call Elliot here, and we're just going to try to find Elliot. So this guy's stuck in the screen. Elliot's probably underneath the screen below. But let's take a look. And you got this jerk. We're going to send him back. And I want to give ET a little props because you got to remember, this dude made this game in 5 weeks. Now, that is an impressive feat even by today's standards. So here's Elliot. We're going to give him our candy. He took it away from us. And, you know, I thought they were expecting miracles. I think for 5 weeks, this guy is a genius for what he put out. Okay, so we got to make sure we clear the, now we see that little bat thing right there? I keep falling on the hole like an idiot, but because, I mean, you can't, I think that's what frustrated a lot of players back in the day, kept falling into this hole. But see this bat looking thing? That's actually a ship. So what you want to do is once we get our final phone piece, and we just got it, Elliot gave it to us, we're gonna go back here and we gotta activate that little bat symbol or spaceship, and now we're in our screen. Now this is the screen right here where we're gonna go back to our homeland. All right, so we got this little safeguard right here, and if this guy takes a piece of the phone from you at this point, that's fine. The only tricky part about here is basically the ship, if anybody's in the screen with you, the ship's not gonna come, and we'll see that because I kind of screw up right here. Well, I don't really screw up, it's just the chance. So that little counter up there in the right hand corner, it counts down and then it appears again and it counts down pretty quick. And if anybody's in the screen like this scientist right here, even if I sent them away, it kind of screws it up because you have to be in the position where that little square is where your ship's going to appear. You have to be in that position with the timer count down and nobody else in the screen. So we kind of got it on lock though. So we're just going to wait this one out. And I felt like that was a good touch. It gave the game just enough challenge, but at the same time gave you like an adventure to try to get kind of like a quest, I guess, in a sense. So if you understood the game, I actually think it's pretty good. Okay, so we're going to count down. We're in our right spot and we go home. Now, at this point in the game's over. The little noise you're hearing right now, that depends on how many pieces of candy you gave Elliot. And we gave him 9 pieces, so we're pretty good. And that's pretty much the end of ET. So people think ET sucked for the Atari 2600. And I understand why. I mean, the game, if you didn't know how to play it, you know, like I said, when the game came out, 1982, 1983 time frame, I remember getting this game, and I don't think we got it around Christmas. We got it a little bit after Christmas because they were so abundant at the time. And I remember me and my uncle playing, and my uncle was, you know, a couple years older than me, and he figured the game out. We kind of played. And after that, it was a cakewalk for us with ET, and it was kind of a fun game because it was what made it cool was it did a lot of things that Atari games weren't doing. It gave you kind of a quest. It gave you some, I won't say RPG elements, but it did give you like just, I guess, a quest, so to speak. Gave you a list of directives. So I thought because you got to remember, it's an Atari 2600 game, and Atari 2600 games really didn't do a whole lot of shit back in the day. You just kind of played them, and lots of times they might have just had 1 or 2 stages that re-loop. But ET actually had a full fleshed out quest, and you did it, and that was it. And everything wasn't in the same spot every time. So I'm not gonna sit here and tell you it was a ton of replayability, but there was some replayability in that game. So I felt like ET just got a bad. I think what happened was, I think the game was good, but I think they just made way too many of them, and kind of like today, counting their chickens before they hatch, they just made a crap ton of cartridges and just trying to cash in. Kind of like the whole Pac-Man story. If you ever played Atari 2600 Pac-Man, this story is very similar to that story. But outside of that, I mean, I felt like ET was a good game. I mean, there were definitely, if you ask me, I feel like the guy who made it, Howard Scott Warshaw, brilliant programmer, brilliant game creator. I feel like Raiders, and people might not agree with me here, but I think Raiders of the Lost Ark was worse than ET, and that game sucked. I didn't like that game. That game sucked. But just my opinion. But that's gonna do it for my review of ET. I feel like it got a lot of hate that it really didn't deserve. But I might be one of the only people in the world that feel the way about ET. But let me know in the comments, guys, what was your experience with ET if you ever played it. That's pretty much all I can say. If history has taught us anything in gaming, all great movies don't translate well to games. I'm looking at you, LJN, but that's going to do it for this video. But as always, guys, please rate, comment, and subscribe. That way you don't miss any more gaming news or gaming reviews on this channel. And with that, take care of yourself. God bless you. Protect you in peace. And we'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.